Hey folks, SMK Gaming here. As we enter 2024, there's a thought starting to creep into the minds of Battlefield players. When are we getting a new Battlefield game? Will it be this year or 2025? The hope for some is that it will be this year. I've already seen players turn to well-known leakers and insiders for any news they may have, but nothing forthcoming so far. I've instead looked into the timeline of events from past Battlefield games and how things unfolded from when each game was first announced to its release date. Looking at this sequence of events, a pattern has emerged, a pattern that has enabled me to predict when a new Battlefield game might be revealed. Join me as I go through a timeline of events leading up to the release of the next game. Here's a timeline of all the major events that happened in Battlefield 1, 5 and 2042. There are noticeable trends that can help us predict when the next Battlefield game might be revealed, beta tested and released. Battlefield 1 was revealed in early May 2016, with Battlefield 5 just over 2 years later in late May 2018. Battlefield 2042 was 3 years on from the Battlefield 5 reveal and it came in early June 2021. It is clear that the reveal has begun later and later in that May-June window, by at least 2 weeks each time. So it is fair to predict that the next Battlefield game would follow this trend and have a mid to late June reveal. But what year? This year? Well, that's what everyone wants to know, right? Let's look at the life cycle of the previous games to help guide us. Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 1 had a 2-year life cycle, whereas Battlefield 4 and 5 were 3-year games. It seems we usually get a new game every 2 to 3 years, with the duration between games changing each year. Going by the current trend, the next game would be coming 2 years after Battlefield 2042, but clearly we are well past that now. Games that had particularly troublesome releases, notably Battlefield 4 and 5, had 3-year life cycles. They had that extra year. We are now into the 3rd year of Battlefield 2042, so it too will have a minimum of a 3-year cycle. It hasn't ever been a 4-year cycle. Based on that, we can make a reasonable assumption that the next Battlefield game will be revealed roughly 3 years following the reveal of the current game, and that reveal would occur sometime in late June. That would place the reveal of the next Battlefield game in late June 2024, so this year. This 3-year cycle is the reasoning why some people believe we are getting one later this year. Moving along the timelines to where players first got the opportunity to test out the game in the alpha tests. The trend of these getting later and later continued, not so much between Battlefield 1 and 5, but between these two games and Battlefield 2042. Battlefield 1 and 5, players first got the opportunity to alpha test those games in late June of the release year. This was for PC players only, with Battlefield 1 console players getting in the action in early July. There were no alpha tests on console for Battlefield 5 and no alpha tests at all in Battlefield 2042. 2042 did get a technical playtest in mid-August around the same time Battlefield 5 had its second alpha test on PC. This technical playtest was said to be a pre-alpha build, so 2042's sequence of testing events was very out of touch with the previous two games. That technical playtest came very late. Understandably, you must allow extra time for such tests due to the reveal being later than previous games. However, Battlefield 1 and 5 were getting alpha builds 6 to 8 weeks after reveal. 2042 was only getting a pre-alpha build over 2 months after reveal. Those who played it complained about it being extremely buggy and unplayable at times. One thing is clear though from the viewed timelines. In each of the last 3 games, players had the chance to play early builds of the game prior to the usual beta testing. So when can we expect these alpha tests in the next Battlefield game? Well, the earliest an alpha test came following the game's reveal was just over 4 weeks, with the latest being just over 2 months. So we effectively have a 4 to 9 week window after reveal for the first chance to play. With a predicted reveal of the next game in late June 2024, we are therefore looking at an alpha test coming in late July to early September, effectively sometime during the summer holiday period. There was beta testing for all 3 recent games. Once again, the beta test for Battlefield 1 and 5 lined up with each other, arriving in late August, early September. 2042's beta was a month later, the first week of October. Both Battlefield 1 and 2042 had their beta testing around 4 months after the game's reveal, with Battlefield 5's a little shorter at around 3.5 months. So an expected beta for the next Battlefield game could arrive mid to late October this year. Now on to the release date. In the past 3 games, the initial release date has always been within a few dates of each other in October. Battlefield 1 released on its intended release date, but both Battlefield 5 and 2042 got delayed until the 19th to 20th of November. I do not see the next Battlefield game being any earlier or later than this. It won't be any earlier since the beta is likely to be mid to late October and they need time to act on feedback from the beta testing. I don't see it being any later than those November dates as they may miss out on those Christmas buyers. Releasing it too late in December, even a few weeks before Christmas, means potential buyers are lost as they already have Christmas presents bought. So I think its release date 3/4 of the way through November makes the most sense here. Here's my full predicted timeline for the next Battlefield game if it releases this year. Now you may have noticed throughout I've been saying if it releases this year. Do I believe it will? No, I don't. And here are some of the reasons for why I do not believe it will, and why we are looking at 4 years between games. Firstly, the past 2 Battlefield games have had awful releases, both riddled with bugs and issues. DICE pretty much spent the entire first year and more of both games' lifecycle fixing it. They cannot afford a third straight release with the game a mess, even though that means it will likely be 4 years between games. This extra year will hopefully allow them to have the base game and follow-up content ready when the game releases. Knowing that Battlefield 2042 is getting a Season 7 means developers have still been working on 2042. If development of the next game had been in full swing by now, we would not be getting any more content in Battlefield 2042. They were doing what they did with Battlefield 5. When they announced that support for Battlefield 5 was ending and they wanted to fully focus on what is now Battlefield 2042, that was 18 months before 2042 released. Support for 2042 hasn't ended yet, so I don't see us getting any new game this year. Following the release of Season 7 in March, this will be a 12-week season which will end in May-June time. In an ideal world, they would then follow this up with an announcement for the next game. This is how it should work, but I don't see this happening. They simply haven't put in the development time into the next game due to the time fixing 2042, which included redoing the maps and trying to add new content also. When Season 7 is over, this will be 17 to 18 months to October-November 2025, which is Battlefield's typical release window. The timeline that I've shown here will more likely be dated like this. The year changes from 2024 to 2025. While this may be disappointing, I ask you to really think about it. Look at how 2042's release, following 18 months fully dedicated to it when Battlefield 5 support was ended early. Though it looks like the next Battlefield game will get the same 18 month period fully dedicated to it also, I believe there is one difference here. While 2042 has been supported longer than Battlefield 5 was, the content has been less, and I feel the developers have been working on the next one earlier in the background. Players have complained about there only being one map each new season and a few new weapons. Why do you think that is? All our resources have been put towards the next game. Remember that period of time during Season 3 and coming up to Season 4 where we were all unsure there would be a second year support. There was no word on a Season 5. I feel DICE were discussing 2 possible plans here. End support and develop the next game for release in 2024, or support 2042 a bit longer with limited content and increase development time on the next one for release in 2025. The first option is what they did with Battlefield 5, and that didn't go so well for them, did it? So second option was then chosen, and that is what we are now getting. So 2042 has been supported a bit longer with limited content while they work on the next game in the background. So why not just say all that at the start and make the original timeline for 2025, you ask? Well, just in case DICE did surprise us with a new one this year, this is how it would go. I simply wanted to show this. Typically, the leakers and insiders start to drip feed information around April to May in the year of release. If we start to get any of that this year, well, my original 2024 timeline could be the one, but I doubt it. I think Season 7 is the last season in 2042. Once it's released, full focus will be the next one with only quality of life improvements made to 2042. I know many would love to see fuller seasons up until the reveal of the next game in 2025, even with limited content. That would be great, and that is what they should be doing, but I seriously doubt it. They had to spend too much time in the first year fixing the game. If they didn't have to have done that, we could have been getting more content up until the reveal of the next one. I hope you've enjoyed this one, folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Will we get a new game this year or next? Did you change your mind on what you previously thought based on my video? Let me know below, folks. I also want to try and hit 15,000 subscribers this year. Help me achieve that by hitting that subscribe button and joining the SMK community. Thanks for watching, folks. Take care all, and I'll catch you again in the next one.